بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. I'm Asim Qurashi, Australian citizen originally from Sudan.
The impact of religion and Sufism on arts in Sudan. Asim Qurashi. The audience, we are delighted to meet you once again as we continue our documentary journey exploring the influence of religion and Sufism on Sudanese arts. This profound relationship that has shaped the spirit of creativity and inspired its aesthetic and spiritual expressions. In today's episode, we host a distinguished artistic figure who represents a living embodiment of the convergence between spirituality and music, where the Sufi experience is vividly expressed through his melodies and creative work. Our guest is the musician Asim الطيب Qurashi, one of the most prominent artists who has carried Sudan's religious, Sufi, and cultural heritage to wider horizons, contributing to its presentation in a global musical language that transcends geographical boundaries. Through his mastery of multiple musical instruments and the richness of his artistic experience, he has been able to reinterpret the Sudanese heritage in contemporary forms while perceiving its authenticity and spiritual depth. His artistic journey represents a space where Sufi remembrance meets rhythm and where music becomes a means of expressing states of purity and transcendence. In his work, the musical note transforms into a state of ecstasy, and performance becomes a form of spiritual contemplation. In this sense, our guest does not merely present music, rather, he waves worlds of feeling and experience that express the essence of Sufism as a path toward elevation and inner refinement. So, dear audience, it is my great pleasure once again welcome our guest, the musician Asim Qurashi, and welcome you further, dear audience, to draw closer to this rich experience and explore how music can serve as a bridge between heritage and modernity, between the local and the global, and between aesthetic expression and spiritual depth.
أمرا عجيب الإمتين يا مولاي سراج وقفنا مع قدران الإمتين
the audience, and you encounter a new meeting with another Sudanese prominent artist, and this time we are in the presence of the Sufi musician Asim Qurashi. Qurashi, who is also a classical violinist and the first Sudanese musician to play violin and sing at the same time, does not compete for this fame. However, his participation in musical festivals and competitions across the globe stemmed from a need to attract attention to the cultural diversity of his home country, Sudan. To quote him, "I always wear the traditional dress, a white jalabiya and turban, when I perform because it is a part of my identity. I am not particularly good-looking man, but I am cultured and able to interact with those around me. Under the umbrella of our shared humanity." Asim also strives to foster cultural tolerance within his homeland. No easy task in a country plagued by ethnic divisions. Through music, brainwashing is incredibly fast and effective.
يا محبهم لا تكون بعيد من قربهم، الميتين يا موت عسى تنتفع من شربهم، كون الرسول ما بغيبهم، الميتين صلوا عليه صلوا عليه صلوا عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوا عليه النبي صلوا عليه صلوا عليه النبي.
Birth and upbringing. In this part of the episode, the audience, I would like to share his birth, his upbringing, and here I would like to invite you to listen to him while he is presenting himself in my interview with him 2 days ago. My name is Asim Qurashi, but it was shortened to Asim الطيب. That is how people used to call me, perhaps even how they describe me from the moment I was born. I grew up in the Blue Nile province, in the southeastern corner of the map of the Republic of Sudan, more than 50 years ago. There, I was weaned on the sounds of the wada instruments, which produce melodies resembling those of Western brass instruments. Each ensemble consisted of 10 horns made from the cylindrical gourds of the Bach's fruit. There were also the rectangle bolo flutes made from the hollow reed stalks, monotonic pan flutes whose melodies sound exactly like the Western flute, or more precisely the Latin American pan flute. Those musicians used to travel from place to place and fight with music in a competitive, ecstatic ritual they call al-hiraba. With it, they delighted the ears of the night, its companions, and its gatherings. The echoes of their songs and instrumental pieces would reverberate from the open courtyards, especially during harvest festivals, where fires burned in the middle of the gathering. But even more beautiful than that were the visits of those folk bands when they came to greet us on the morning of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Thanks to them, they never sought money or fame, only to spread joy among us through their cheerful music. Among them, the word waza itself meant dancing and joy. At that time, I had already realized that my hearing was wider than my sight, like a circle compared to half of it, and that I had been created musical by a cosmic decree whose command was simply be, and it is, and whose decision was a destined fate. Then the lullabies of my mother, Aisha Taha, the teacher, refined my musical talent in that early age through the rhythm of dubate poetry and the songs of nighttime storytelling such as Fatima Samha and Akhdar Azaz fi Gazaz. She also introduced me to school theater monologues like Luck is useless, gentleman. It lives only on the mattress. And the boarding school is better for me. The food is delicious and tea is served morning and evening. The brilliance of sound and the meaning of music grew even more after I studied the fundamentals of music at the Higher Institute of Music and Theatre at the University of Sudan, and later studied music and sound technology during my post studies at the Queensland Conservatorium in Australia. I learned to play many string instruments such as the Sudanese tambour, the Arabic oud, the violin, the mandolin, the guitar, and the piano. But in the city of Brisbane in Australia, my musical journey advanced to postgraduate levels until music became both my message and my philosophy, especially after obtaining a master's degree in multi-instrumental music performance. Whenever my understanding of music expanded, I Sudanized its techniques by applying all my knowledge to inspiration drawn from the diverse heritage and cultures of Sudan's many tribes. Gradually, I became familiar with their singing styles in their rhythmic African languages, their local pentatonic scales, and even the whistling of breath, which I mastered so well that I won a world championship in a global whistling festival in the United States some years ago. Yet, a feeling of anxiety never left me, not even at the moment of writing my experience as a traveling musician. My Sudanese identity is a blend of African and Arab heritage. If I inherited from my mother's African ancestors drums and soulful pentatonic melodies, then my father, the Qurshi, with his Arab lineage, I inherited memories of ancestors who filled the skies of the Hijaz with poetry and traveling poets, reciting it between the markets of Ukaz, Majannah and Dhul Majaz since the 5th century. The Arabs used to remain in the market of Ukaz for 20 days from the beginning of Dhul Qa'idah, selling goods and reciting poetry. Then they would travel to the market of Majannah for the last 10 days of the same month, and then to Dhul Majaz for the first 8 days of the Hijjah before proceeding to their pilgrimage. Thus, traveling art began in my earliest teens, but it did not stop there. Education. About his education, he informed me that he began his primary education at Gizan Primary School, where he studied for 3 years. After that, he moved to Aruseris Mixed School for 1 year, then to Aseru School for another year. From there, he sat for the primary school certificate examination in 1977 in Aruseris. After that, he continued his studies at the intermediate level in Roseres and then joined secondary school. He studied for 2 years at Damazin Secondary School and completed the 3rd year in Hasahisa Old School. From there, he went on to Sudan University of Science and Technology, the Institute of Music and Drama. Asim recalls that after he was accepted into the Institute of Music and Drama, he went to visit his spiritual teacher, the Gnostic Sheikh Dafallah Saim Dima. When the Sheikh saw him, he asked, "Where are you now, son of Sheikh al-Qurashi?" Asim replied, "I have been admitted to the Institute of Music and Drama." Asim says that the Sheikh responded by saying, "May God grant you victory. May God grant you victory." The audience, I would like to reminding you that I'm presenting Asim Qurashi as part of our series of documentaries that have been devoted to introduce Sudanese artists. And as you follow in our presence, the Sufi musician Asim Qurashi. So what is behind our journey with him and with the rest of those Sudanese artists is just to trace the impact, the influence of religion and Sufism in their productive work and artistic productions. So here in this part of the episode, I would like to share his relation, Asim relation to Sufism. Let us go. Asim Qurashi assumes a look when he performs. To those in the audience, he must seems in the throes of a deeply meditative state. That is partly because that exactly how it feels to the Sufi musician. To quote him, Sufism is the mindset that I am in when I'm playing music, elevating towards God, and thus elevating my experience, my existence. Explain Qurashi. Spectators often think of the performance as beautiful because they are seeing me as I move towards God, he says, adding, it has no religious restrictions, Islamic or otherwise, because it is a state of human purity. I believe that understanding through music can provide an arena for recognition and lead different peoples to respect each other. My message is that the search for an all-encompassing Sudanese identity will not be fruitful because there is no understanding between people. Understanding and recognition is a part of the Islamic message. There is even a Quranic verse that says, "O mankind, we have created you from male and female, and peoples and tribes, so that you may know one another." To this aim, Qurashi worked with the Sudanese government's Administration for Cultural Diversity to promote the music and traditions of Sudan's many indigenous tribes as a way to foster understanding between them. Through this exposure, we were able to cultivate local ideas on how to enrich modest musical genres enough to break boundaries, and rather than promote tradition, promote ingenuity, he says.
أستشرف المدينة وليتني أراها ليتني أراها كبار من وحنينة شوقي حسان البيت بسم الله رب الحيلة يا ناس قلب عباد كفيل.
The relationship between Sufism and music, and this is just part of his words. As I told, I have interviewed him 2 days ago, and I have asked him about the relation between Sufism and music. So, just here I would like to share his ideas. The relationship between Sufism and music is built on more than one bridge that connects them. Both are grounded in abstraction, spirituality, beauty, and sincerity. Music in its essence is sound, and sound by its very nature is abstract. Listening itself is one of the signs of the night, a moment in which the spirit reveals itself and the soul becomes serene. Beauty, too, is shared between them. For the Sufi view of divine truth is fundamentally an aesthetic vision, and music is the same. Indeed, the arts in general were created only from beauty. In reality, they are nothing but a recreation of beauty or a rediscovery of it. Yet, beauty cannot be seen except through love. If love is not within a person, he cannot step outside himself, outside the prison of the ego, in order to see the other. Hatred, on the other hand, drives a person back into himself and makes him a prisoner of his own being. For this reason, love is not merely a bond, it is one of the great bridges that connect a human being to beauty and the truth, and that link him to the world of abstraction, the world of spirituality. The highest form of love is spiritual love, the love that is not tied to material things or to any kind of reward. Sufism leads the human being toward what has no end, toward divine truth, just as music leads him toward a limitless imagination. If Sufism draws you toward the depths of the soul, music draws you toward the horizon of imagination. From this perspective, both create a very fertile ground for creative thinking, because neither can truly be reached unless you open passages between your consciousness and your subconsciousness.
ما في من زيك يا رسول الله مكسينا من زيك يا رسول الله
Openness places you in a state of inner sincerity, where what is inside you and what is outside you become one, and where consciousness and the subconsciousness meet at a single point. For this reason, the state of ecstasy experienced by the musician is very close to the ecstasy experienced by the Sufi. In its essence, Sufism is an open school. It's an open school that does not like closed questions answered with yes or no. Rather, it responds to open questions, and therefore it has no narrow limits. As for the righteous aspect, it is as though you choose white between black and white, and within that white you choose the colors of the spectrum so that you may see the shades between light and shadow. everything in it is based on transparency rather than restriction. There was another side in my life, as still I'm quoting from the interview that I have conducted with Asim Qurashi, asking him about the relationship between music and Sufism. To quote him further, there was another side in my life, a direct side, and a side that chose me before I chose it, and that side was Sufism. The side I chose myself was the one connected to music and to Sufism through the philosophy of music and philosophy of Sufism in my life. But the side I did not choose, the one that chose me, was that I was born into a Sufi environment. My maternal grandfather was a Khalifa in the Khatmiya Order, and my father belonged to the family of Sheikh al-Qurshi al-Zain and Sheikh Alim al-Musallami. The entire region of Al Jazeera is deeply rooted in Sufism. In addition to that, I received the spiritual path from Sheikh Dafallah Saim Dima in 1982 when I was 17 years old. My environment already combined the Samaniya, the Khatmiya, and later I also followed the third line, the Qadiriya Arakiya. So this was the side that chose me because the environment in which I grew up was completely filled with Sufism. Because of that, I was searching for a philosophy and a form of Islamic life that would not restrict the environment, the movement of my thinking, but would help me to be who I truly am. A person connected to art and music may not always be understood by the strict view that considers music forbidden. Yet, music has never led me to anything except the good of humanity. If Islamic law means bringing benefit, then I have been able to bring a great benefit through it, through human connection and mutual recognition. After all, knowing one another is one of the purposes of creation. God says in the Quran, "O mankind, we created you from a male and female and made you peoples and tribes so that you may know one another." The part of religious life connected to human relations begins with knowledge and recognition. That is why God taught Adam the names of all things. He did not teach him mathematics, music, or chemistry first. He taught him the names because knowledge is the foundation of the human relationship with the world. As for the aspect of worship, it is deeply personal. A space where you are alone with your Lord, speaking to Him in your own way, beyond the outward things imposed on us as objective obligations. For me, therefore, Sufism is not necessarily the Sufism as it is practiced today. It is my own Sufism. As I understand and live it, every true Sufi, in my view, must be the creator of his own spiritual path. For the relationship between you and God is extremely personal, and only God truly understands it. That is why when a person says, "You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help," God responds, "This is between me and my servant. I wanted to live my life with God in the way that only He and I know, and to end my life with a sound heart, one that carries no hatred or resentment, and that forgives every day those who have wronged him." those who have wronged me. I found that this was possible in Sufism, and I also found that it was possible in music. Music nourishes Sufism, and Sufism nourishes music. Both helped me to become myself. And when I become myself, I create. I move beyond imagination. I moved beyond imitation and tradition toward the ability to renew myself constantly. In short, I became able to be reborn in every moment.
محمد يا رسول الله حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله لا إله إلا الله محمد يا رسول الله الله جل جلاله لا له شريك لا له مثال
Sudanese Symphony. Qurashi attributes his love of indigenous music to his upbringing in Sudan's Blue Nile state, an area rife with division due to ongoing civil conflict. In Qurashi's memory, however, the region was symphonic. The Blue Nile state is home to at least 40 native tribes, each with 4 distinct genres of music. During harvest, I would listen to cacophonies of songs. I slept in the yard of my home. I would listen to the differences in the music, not as noise, but rather as symphony. I always strive to reenact the musical sounds I heard as a child in a practical and modern way. As an adult, Qurashi has traveled throughout the country to teach local people to use indigenous music as a tool for peaceful dialogue. If an individual within a restricted space is able to hear themselves at a distinct melody and at the same time be able to listen to the melodies of others, then they have achieved a level of tolerance that is built upon the acceptance of difference. He explains. Qurashi recalls settling a disagreement between 2 small tribes through his method, which he refers to as conscious listening. To quote him, all I did was composing a song that carried meanings, which celebrated each tribe in a context of peace, and interweaved well-known local tribal songs. My main message was that instead of promoting conflict and warfare, they could promote culture through musical collaboration. It is an approach that comes at a crucial time. At a crucial time, as Sudan launched a national dialogue aimed at finding a solution to the country's ailing economy and conflicts in Darfur, Blue Nile State, and Kordofan. Qurashi says that in addition to breaking boundaries, music can play a part in positive brainwashing. He worked with Madda Center for Social Studies to train 165 community leaders, including traditional war singers involved in the Darfur conflict, to sing about peace. Through music, brainwashing is incredibly fast and effective because a song, once caught in the head, is repeated and transformed into thoughts, which in turn become actions that eventually become a way of life, he said.
ما في قلبي غير الله ما في قلبي غير الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله الله الله
And then the audience, we travel together with the roving ambassador of peace and love, the Sufi musician Asim Qurashi. We encounter him today, sharing part of his philosophy that rests in musican Sufism, believing strongly that music and Sufism can help solving the human problems. So we encountered him and presented him as an artist that his dream is to find justice, peace, and dialogue among the human beings on earth. More specifically, homeland Sudan, which torn apart by wars and disasters. The audience, before to wrap up here, I would like just to share the sources that I have consulted to present the episode. Yusra al-Baqir, her article, he whistles moderate, but can Asim Qurashi bring peace to Sudan? It is an article has been written on October 29, 2015. Another source here, Rhythm Divine, Sudanese Sufi Asim Qurashi. In fact, it is an article and at the same time it is an interview conducted on Australia, abc.net Australia. It is available in format of audio. And at the same time, it is an article. And finally, here I would like to point out to the interview that already I have conducted with Asim Qurashi on 24 of March 2026, as well as 25 of the very same month and the year. By this, the audience, I come to the end of the episode till seeing you in another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
شايل الله يا ود الزين، شايل الله شايل الله يا ود الزين، اسمك في البنادر وين؟ شايل الله شايل الله، شايل الله يا ود الزين، شايل الله يا ود الزين، يا ود الزين، اسمك في البنادر وين؟ شايل الله شايل الله شايل الله.